My name is Craig Johnson. I am the owner of CJ Designs. I specialize in aftermarket accessories and motorcycle parts. I've been working on this bike. It's a 2019 KTM 390 Duke. That's what it started out as. I am an adventure rider. I travel quite extensively on motorcycles. My wife rides with me as much as she can. Most bikes that we find are a little bit too big. You get into the 950s, the 990s, 790s, they all got pretty tall seat height, and with that comes a lot of weight. Trying to work on a bike that has a lower seat height, less intimidating, and just more welcoming to the beginner rider, women riders, just any rider that's got a low inseam that doesn't want to be scared away with a tall seat on a motorcycle. With this starting out as a Duke, a 390 Duke, it was about a 31-inch seat height. These stock as a 390 make about 40 horsepower. So pretty comparable to, if you're riding a 350 EXC motocross bike or trail bike from the KTM lineup, it's very similar in horsepower to that. So it'll pull you right along. These bikes, you're getting about a 4,000 mile oil service interval, which is great. This can actually be traveled on. A dirt bike, you're changing oil quite often. So being able to get on a road is great without having to worry about servicing it all the time. The first few months that my wife had this, last season, she commuted back and forth with it in the stock trim. It was just a 390 Duke. These start out with 17-inch wheels, front and rear, just like most sport bikes have. The foot position is tucked back. They have rear sets on the frame, so you're kind of more in an attack sport bike riding position. For her commuting, she's taller, and that limited her comfort level. So one of the ideas was to come up with a bike in the 400cc and smaller range from the offerings and design it as something that she could ride with and commute and also travel with. With my background of riding adventure bikes and often being on the bike for 15 hours, sometimes a little bit more per day, rider comfort and ergonomics are very important. Proper peg to seat position, seat to bar position, just getting yourself in a good rider stance and seating area for a long duration is important. So that was one of the big things of trying to redesign this into something that we can travel together with now as she's getting back into motorcycling a little bit more and do fire roads and some forest roads and commuting on the streets, because not everything is a motocross track. Not everything is two-track. A lot of the forest roads that you go down are great. They're scenic and not quite so challenging, but even some of the great parks around the country. You've got to take a forest road or a gravel road to get to your campsite. So to start with converting this from a full-on street 390 Duke to more of a 390 travel Enduro, I started at the front end, and one of the things you definitely need to change is the tire rim package. We're going from a full street setup to a more 50-50 dual sport tire. These are going to allow us to ride in the rain, gravel roads, but still hop on the freeway and take secondary roads. So a very versatile tire. We're actually running Kenda tires. The rear is a 17 and the front is a 19. And we're running a spoked rim as opposed to a cast rim, which is a little more forgiving when you get to riding off-road. The front end are different forks as well. Longer travel. I have shortened them slightly so that you don't have the full 10 inches of a motocross fork. But we've gained a little bit of travel and converted it to a KTM 85 motocross fork. So WP, 43 millimeter tubes, very similar to what is available strength-wise of most 250 to 450 cc dual sport bikes. These normally come with a very low fender that would hug the tire, and which is no problem when you're riding the road. You're not really picking up any mud or any big rocks, things like that. But as we get off-road, we move the tire up and away from we move the fender up and away from the tire to give us more clearance. Keeps the tire from packing up with mud, and just allows things to be protected much better. The front end for brakes, we're still using the stock front caliper. I made an adapter plate to a different rotor, and also maintain the ABS toning system for speedometer and ABS functions. The brake caliper is relocated with a custom bracket that bolts onto the lower part of the fork stanchion. For foot position, we've moved the foot pegs more forward and below the rider instead of back. This also allows the opportunity that if a rider needs to stand to maneuver around obstacles, they're actually more centered over the bike and centered in a riding stance than trying to stand up on a rear set foot peg. All of these relocation bracket pieces I machined to accommodate the brake pedal location and the foot pegs. And there is some self-adjustability built into the foot pegs for just minor tweaking and as we work through the prototype stages of this to fine-tune things. This bike no longer has a catalytic converter. A lot of the bikes, as we get into the performance mode, we drop the catalytic converter for allowing the engine to run cooler. It also drops a lot of weight. So by removing the catalytic converter, we made a custom delete pipe and lost about 7 pounds off the bike. So it's something that's normally really low on the motorcycle, and the stock exhaust actually comes out right here. So when you're riding off-road, that's a very vulnerable location for anything on the motorcycle. So it's part of kind of our stage 1 build. We removed the catalytic converter, made a cat delete pipe, and relocated the silencer quite a bit higher, more like your Enduro bikes would have. With future plans of this bike, we want to be able to travel with it. We've added the KTM hard parts tail rack system to that, and that is also integrated into the mount for the exhaust. So this is custom, modified that, and in the future, hope to actually offer soft bag system or a hard bag system that'll bolt on. The rear wheel is a 17-inch, which is very common on most smaller displacement dual sport bikes. It's again spoked, and it also retains the cush drive stability. So that helps take some of the shock load off of the transmission and the rear wheel hub assembly. So it isn't just a straight dirt bike wheel swap. It's actually more of a traveling Enduro type wheel build. So longer life, just like the stock bike had as a cush drive, and most dual sport bikes all have them, I retain that option as well. The rear has a custom hub to brake rotor adapter that also maintains the rear ABS toner ring in its function. I ended up with a seat height on this build of about 32 inches, so it's a little bit taller than the stock 390 Duke, but still very accommodating for most people. Also, the weight of this bike, fully fueled currently, is at about 350 pounds. So in comparison, that's about 100 pounds lighter than the 790 Adventure. So that should allow many people to get into this bike build option. This is a new build and a new starting platform for some R&D and some prototyping. Finished it last fall, or finished it over the winter to try and get some testing into it this year. It's a proof of concept, just trying to get some ideas, see what people think about it, if there's any interest in building more, offering parts, and continue evolving the small dual sport platform. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. cjdesignslllc.com is my website. We've got some more information of parts and products on there. And hopefully we'll be doing more videos to showcase some more products and bikes in the future.